All right, today we're going to write exponential functions by hand. And we learned yesterday that the exponential equation is y equals ab to the x. What we're going to start off doing is having two coordinate points and trying to write our equation by hand. Okay, so if you look at 1, I have two coordinate points, and they're really like an x and y value. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and substitute in for y equals ab to the x. Instead of a y, I'm going to put a 4. Instead of x, I'm going to put a 2. So I made one equation. Do the same thing with the second point. Instead of y equals ab to the x, I want you to plug in y is 16 and then x is 3, because that's what they told me in my initial example. My x was 3, my y is 16. Okay, if I want to solve for this, it's tricky because I have two variables. Normally when I have two variables, I do a system of equations. I'm going to do the same thing here, except I'm doing a system of equations by division. Okay, and what the trick is put the higher variable on top. So you're going to solve by division, and you're going to put the larger exponent in the numerator. If you can do that, it's going to make your life a lot easier to solve. So put the larger exponent in the numerator. So what I mean is, here's one equation, here's another equation. All right, if this is one of my equations and this is the other, the higher exponent is b to the third. That's the higher exponent. So I'm going to put this 16 equals ab to the third in the numerator, and I'm going to divide it by the other equation with a smaller exponent. What is super nice about this is if I'm dividing out, well, 16 divided by 4 is 4. A divided by a cancels out, and when I divide exponents, I'm really subtracting. So I'm saying like 3 minus 2 is 1, or you could just cancel, and now I know what my b is. My ultimate goal is to get a times b to the x with my a and b written in it. So right now I've got my b, but I've got to find my a. So just like any other systems problem, when you have one answer, go back to either original and plug it in, meaning I know my b is 4, so I'm going to take this original equation, 4 equals ab squared, and every place I see a b, I'm going to plug in a 4. So I'm going to plug in a 4 here, and then let's solve for our a. Well, 4 squared is 16. If I'm solving for a, I'm going to divide by 16. So I just found out that a is 1/4. So I can write my exponential function now because I have my a and my b. When I write the equation on a line, I want to keep my x and y's, but I want to make sure I plug in a and b. So I'm going to put y equals a times b to the x. That would be my final answer. Okay. If I look at number 2, let's go ahead and do the same thing.
Beat every middle school boy in ping pong. I'm the best.
Pat McAnulty just
can't hold me.
Just amazing, everyone. You should give him a round of applause while you're listening to this.
Okay, bye. Thanks.
All right, second problem. If you plug in for y equals ab to the x, I'm going to plug in y is 1/2 equals a times b, x is just 0. All right. My other equation, I'm going to kind of write down here, y, whoops, my y is what, 3? Let me erase that. 3 is equal to a times b to the 1. So I'm plugging in 3 for my y, and I'm plugging in 1 for my x. Now, even though 1 is bigger than 0, hopefully you realize b to the 0 means that's just going to go the way, because anything b to the 0 power, anything to 0 is just 1. What's really great about this problem is I'm actually already done solving for one variable, because my a is just 1/2. b to the 0 is 1, so a times 1 is just a, and I have that answer. So the only thing I need to do is find my b. Well, let's take this and plug it back in one of the original equations. So I'll put a is 1/2. b to the first is really just b. If I'm solving for b, to get rid of 1/2, I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. So I just got b is equal to 6. So now I can write my final answer, which is going to be y equals ab to the x, but I'm plugging in my a being 1/2, and my b is 6. So I have y equals ab to the x. All right. Let's scroll down and do the same thing on number 3. I'm going to plug in 2 for my y and 2 for my x. So 2 equals ab to the 2. Second equation, y equals ab to the x. Look which equation has the larger exponent, which is going to be this one. So I'm going to put that in the numerator, and I'm going to put the denominator, I'm going to make the second equation my denominator. We're doing a system of equations by division. So if I divide out, 2 goes into 4 2 times, the a's drop out, and b squared into b to the third is just b. So I'm halfway there because I have my b, but I have to find out what the a is. So you take either of the originals. I would choose the one with the smaller exponent just because it's going to be easier. And every place I see a b, I'm going to plug in a 2. So 2 equals a. My b was 2. And I square it. 2 equals 4a. So my a is 1/2. So I have my a and my b. I write my final answer is a times b to the x. And that would be my final answer. All right, number 4 is a little bit trickier. You can try that one on your own if you want and pause the video, or else just kind of work with me. Same process. We're plugging in for x's and y's and making 2 equations and then solving the system. So y is equal to ab to the -1. Y is equal to a times b to the x. So it's a little bit harder as we're going to have negative exponents and fractional exponents. But if you use the same rules, if I have 2 equations and I'm doing exponentials and I want to solve by division, the larger exponent is 1/2 because 1/2 is bigger than -1. So I'm going to put 40 equals ab to the 1/2 all over 5 equals ab to the -1. I'm going to divide these out, and I just need you to be careful when you divide. Whoops, I don't know what I just did. Oh, we'll just put it over here. When I divide this out, 5 goes into, come on, 5 goes into 48 times. The a's cancel, but I need you to think here. When I take exponents and divide them, I subtract them. So I'm really taking 1/2 and I'm subtracting -1. 1/2 minus -1. Well, minus would be plus. 1 plus 1/2 is really 1.5. But I don't want to put b to a mixed number, so that's really going to be 3/2. Now, another way of thinking about it is if you move this guy to the top, you'd have b to the first and b to the 1/2, and when you keep your bases and add your exponents, your exponent will be 1.5. So either way, you would get b to the 3/2 power. Now, since I'm solving for b, that's power over root. I want to get rid of that by raising it to the reciprocal power. This will cancel. I'm left with 8 to the 2/3. Remember that this is power over root. Take the root first. So what's the cube root of 8? Well, 2. What's 2 squared? 4. So I just found out that my b value is equal to 4. I'm not done because I need to find my a value. Take either original equation. Neither of them is fun. Let's go ahead and use the 1/2 power instead of the negative. So I'm going to say 40 is equal to a times b is 4 to the 1/2 power. Hope you remember 1/2 power is square root because it's power over root. The square root of 4, nicely enough, is just 2. And if I'm dividing by 2, my a would be 20. So my final answer, I have a b is 4, and I have an a is 20. I'm going to write y equals 20 times 4 raised to the x power. So when you're doing these by hand, make 2 equations. Put the equation with the higher variable in the numerator, divide them out, solve for a variable, then plug it back in to solve for the other. Okay, the second part we're going to do using the calculator. Sorry. We're going to graph these and then write the exponential function using a calculator. So what I want you to do is you're going to go to Stat Edit, and you're going to type in your L1s and your L2s, you're going to type in your x values and your y values, just like we've done many times with linear regression, quadratic regression, cubic regression, and so on. So go to the very top, clear out and enter. I'm going to type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in my L2s. And then I'm taking my y's and I'm plugging in. So you need to have your graphing calculator out. You're going ahead and plugging in the values. Pause this anytime if I'm going too quickly, but make sure that you're actually practicing this on the calculator. So what I did was I just typed in L1 and L2, my x values for L1, my y values for L2. There's 2 things I need to do. They're asking me to graph and to write the model. All right. If I want to write the model, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Stat, Calculate, and what I want you to do is when you press Stat Calc, keep scrolling down till you see what you think would be exponential regression. And if you scroll down, you'll see that number 0 is EXPREG, and that's the way I'm going to find exponential regression. So when they want the exponential function, I'm doing Stat Calc 0. So on my main screen, it will look like exponential reg. And then we need to do what we've done before. I need to say L1, L2, comma Y1. Depending on your calculator, you either have to type in the L1 and L2, like L1, comma, L2, comma, and then to get your Y1, you do vars, yvars, function Y1. Or some of you with the newer calculators, you just have to store your regression with the Y1. When I have what I have on my screen, it's going to say exponential regression. It says y equals a b to the x, and they give me my a, they give me my b, and you probably have your r squared on there, which we don't need right now, so I just really need my a and my b. What I would do to find my equation then, so I'll put my model down here, is I put in 0.3 times 4 to the x. So there's my exponential model. Obviously that was much quicker using the calculator and a little more accurate, because when I have this many points, I would have to pick just 2 out of those coordinate points, and it wouldn't be as accurate. Now, if I want to graph this, the one thing I need to tell you is you need to change your window. So go to your window and change it accordingly. For this problem, I'm going to say, let's make my x's go from -10 to, let's say, +10. And my y values, let's go -10, but this goes all the way to 1200. So maybe let's go 1500 for my y max. Okay, go ahead and press graph. Wait a second, because it's computing, and I should be able to see my exponential. Now, it looks just like this. It just is going to hug the x-axis, and then it's going to shoot up. So this is my graph. I'm going to have an asymptote at y equals 0, because my graph will never get lower than the x-axis. So I'm done with that problem in the sense that I wrote my exponential model, and I graphed it. Okay, so go ahead and try number 2. We're going to do the same thing, but I'm going to just remind you how to do predictions. So on number 2, go to Stat Edit, go to the very top, press Clear Enter, type in your X's, 5, 6, 7, I'm going to type in my Y's, 2, 3, 4, 6, 10, 15, 22, 24. I'm going to do Stat Calc, Exponential, so 0 and Enter. I'm going to get y equals, just round this to like 2 decimal places, so 1.91 times 1.5 to the x. I'm going to graph it, but in order to do that, make sure you change your window. So for this problem, I go 0 to 7, so I'm going to keep it from -10 to 10. But my y's, I only go to 34. So I'm going to go -10, let's say to like 50. Let's just try that. See what your graph looks like, and all you're doing is making a sketch. My sketch, again, is going to look very similar to the last one. I'm making an exponential graph. I'm not going to cross y equals 0. That's going to be my asymptote. Now, to predict, if you did stat calc exponential and you didn't put in your L1 and L2s and whatnot, you're not going to be able to do the prediction. Make sure you're going back to your main screen if you have not done this. And when you calculated this, you need to have on the L1, comma L2, comma like Y1. So if you didn't do that, when I go to ask you right now to go to Y equals and graph, you will not have anything in your Y equals, okay, if you didn't do that. So make sure that you do the L1, L2, Y1. Now, just a reminder, if I give you an X and want to find your Y, right now go to your graph, and what you're going to do is you're going to say, okay, if X is 9, if you remember, just do second trace value. So if I press second trace value, which is number 1, it will say X is what? So you're going to plug in 9 and press enter, and you should get 75 point, let's say like 09. All right, now since I don't know what these mean, you're just putting down the letters. I don't really have a label. Now, if I want Y is 45, if you remember how to do this, you're going to go to your Y2, and I'm going to type in 45. I type in 45 and press graph. If you indeed made your window up to 50, you're going to see that line come across about here. And what I'm looking for is that intersection. So when I want to find X, I put Y2, I make Y2 equal to 45. That way I have my original graph and where Y is equal to 45. I can find out when it's equal to 45 when I do the intersection. So I'm going to do second trace, and intersect is number 5. And since those are only going to intersect at one point, I'm just going to kind of take my cursor up to the curve and press enter, enter, enter. And really, because it only intersects at one point, you could press enter, enter, enter 3 times already. My x would be about 7.75. All right, so we'll review again the predicting again, but make sure you have a calculator for the calculator problems for the assignment, and then make sure that you can do the other problems by hand.